Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Revamped Founder. In this episode, we have Arseni Santashev joining us. Arseni is the founder and CEO of Gigimot, practice management software for solo practitioners and small clinics. Previously, he has negotiated $3.5 million in seed funding for his first startup. He launched the first ever Estonian online portal for students and pupils. Then he launched the first Estonian online vegan shop, and he has done some incredible work. Do listen to this till the end.
So, hey Arseni, how are you?
Good. Thanks for asking, Advik. Look forward to this podcast.
Yep, same here. My pleasure. Can you give a little introduction so that the listeners know what they're listening to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi everyone. My name is Arseni, founder of Gigimot. I'm a serial entrepreneur born in Estonia. Launched a couple of startups from high tech to e-commerce, and now building a practice management software for self-employed therapists who run their private practice and for small clinics to improve their workflow so that they can take much more patients and generate more revenue.
The niche that you guys are working in, how did you get into that? So, how are you related to clinics or medical or something like that?
This is a really good one because in the beginning, the original idea was completely different. It was born basically when the pandemic hit. And at that time, we were building a marketplace to find specialists to do some kind of work, like plumbers, electricians, nannies, dog walkers, and stuff like that, and people like that. But then we realized when the lockdown happened in Estonia, we realized that that business model is completely unscalable. So we pivoted into focus on something that can be done again online. And we chose only one category, healthcare. Well, it was like a wellness and beauty because we had life coaches, dietitians, nutritionists. And then we realized after, like working with people that there was a much bigger problem because at that time, a lot of marketplaces like that starting to popping up, like marketplace to find a dietitian, marketplace to find a personal trainer, nutritionist, and so on and so on and so on. And we've realized that the actual problem was much bigger than that. The problem was actually managing your practice and keeping up with the current demand and using the software, which is A, not outdated, and B, is scalable, that will allow you to optimize and generate more revenue, bring more patients, and simplify the basically overall of your practice. And the most important thing is to give you a uh, full view of the performance of your business. So that was where the problem was, and we deep dive into that. So we then again pivoted, and we basically focused on delivering the to build a best practice management software for small teams and clinics that they can run their practice smoothly, intuitively, without like going through weeks or even months of onboarding process. So we basically removed everything, and we succeeded in that. And that's like really cool thing. Like this is the whole credit goes to our beta testers,
Yeah.
who share their professional feedback, and B, to my amazing team, who I wouldn't be able to done that without them.
So you guys initially started out with a lot of niches on the platform, but then resorted to using one, and that succeeded.
Exactly. So we made the same mistake as many founders do, especially first-time founders. And although I'm not a first-time founder,
Yeah.
I did exactly the same mistake. So it's a very common thing, no matter where you are on the planet. So we wanted to build, not build. We basically wanted to have a lot of people. We want to serve a lot of people, but
Yeah.
then we realized that we will be building absolutely nothing for everyone. So that's
Yeah.
like a catchy phrase, you know, you build everything for nobody, and that doesn't bring any value. So you need to focus, you need to narrow down specifically for only one category, only one niche, and then you start to expand. And a lot of VCs, you know, like this is like also a piggybacking on this topic. A lot of VCs, you know, will start telling you, oh, your market is so small, like how can you do those? Like nah, no, it's not venture backable startup.
Yeah.
But this can discourage a lot of startups.
Yeah.
And if you will get discouraged, you basically will shut down your business, and that's it. So the goal here is to take this advice and throw it away and continue doing what you're doing, because as soon as you start generating revenue, these guys who told you that, hey, there's no business,
Yeah.
they will be first who will be knocking on your doors and saying like, hey, you know, like we saw that you just basically had this amazing press release, congratulations on your first customers, we want to write you a check. So
Yeah.
the subject line will change completely. But the lesson here is to, no matter how seductive it is to serve absolutely everyone from day one, no, forget that. Choose one category, like take at least 10 customers, you know, who will love your product, who will be using this daily. Then, you know, like expand to 5 more customers, you know, have like 20 customers, 50 customers, or even 100 customers from one vertical. And then, and only then, you know, if your business model is repeatable and scalable, then start to think about how can you add more value to other people in that vertical. So in our case, right, we started from mental health therapists, but then a couple of clinics reach out to us. They said, oh my gosh, your product is so cool, we want to test it out. So that opened a like wide opportunity for expanding our business model from serving only one type of people, self-employed therapists, into serving small clinics, and then basically so on, so on. So now we have like really, really huge plans for expanding further.
What do you think is important to do in a competitive market, in a small competitive market?
If the niche is growing, I mean, if it's stagnating or even going down, you know, you make your research, and it's instead of growing like 8%, 10%, 15% on the annual basis, and of course you need to go there, but of course you need to have a plan how you will overplay the other guys, right? So in our case, we analyzed a lot of competitors. Like we also included some indirect competitors, like equity scheduling or even Calendly, because in most part of the world, people don't use, they don't have access to practice management software. So instead they're using Calendly or equity scheduling, because this is what they basically need for taking appointments online. And I'm talking about self-employed therapists. With clinics, it's a slightly different story. So we had to analyze a lot of potential potential competitors, you know, like weigh like all pros and cons, and then we made a decision. Yes, it's a good opportunity for us to enter that market because we're doing things completely different. Our UX is different. You know, like instead of waiting for weeks or months, you can go live with Gigimot in 20 minutes. 20 minutes, that's it. Instead of you know, like waiting for weeks or months before you're getting onboarded. So we also focus on completely different things rather than competitors, and that's what makes us a competitive. So just kind of simple example, right? So you have 2 cars, right? One is BMW and the other one is Kia, right? So BMW offers you one set of features, right? And Kia offers you different types of features, right? If you ride it, basically they're 2 cars, right? They solve the same problem, right? You want to go from this destination A to destination B, right? So that's your main job to be done, right? But how they doing? That's the question. If you want to have more comfort, right? Like more smooth ride, you know, like more sound, you know, soundproof when you're driving, you know, more better sound quality to listen to the music, right? So you choose one option. If you don't care about that, you know, you just need to kind of have 4 wheels and you don't care, you know, and a chair, right? So then you choose that type of product. And yeah, basically that applies to any type of business. Doesn't really matter if you're doing a practice management software, if it's a food delivery application, or if it's a ride-hailing application like Uber or Estonian Bolt, right? It doesn't really matter. What matters the most is if you can overplay the existing guys with your value proposition. And that's the problem. This is where a lot of startups really fail, because they fail to understand what is the value proposition and how to come up to that value proposition. So there are two really good books on that. This first, Lean Startup. It's basically kind of cliche, but what I would further advise is to analyze the Lean Canvas, which is a derivative from Alexander Osterwalder's business model canvas. So the main difference is basically business model canvas is something that is built for existing businesses that they knew how they're structured, and they can just basically play with the canvas and change their business models. But the Lean Canvas is for startups. And this is where the magic happens. So I would really encourage people and those who will be watching and listening to analyze the Lean Canvas model, because this is what would help them. And the second thing is a book called Jobs to be Done. This is for everyone, not only for startups, but for everyone. It explains, the main things, like what needs to be, what your customers needs to, what are the customers are trying to achieve, what are they aspiring to achieve, so that you could understand the psychology. And when you get that, then you will understand, okay, so instead of actually offering them 4 wheels, right? Instead of offering them a car, you need to understand what they want to achieve with that car. And that could be different problems, right? Different jobs. For example, in this example with a car, it could be having a really good family trip from I don't know, from Estonia to Switzerland. That would be amazing, right? That's the job to be done. Or the second job to be done for the same person, it could be a convenient way to arrive to ride to their existing job, right? From home to the office. So when you understand the meaning behind true jobs to be done of your particular customer, then the magic happens. Then you can come up with a value proposition, and then you can have a strategy to overplay the existing players on their markets.
So what is the average use case of Gigimot in small clinics and electronic health records?
Average case is basically the optimization. Well, there could be like any clinic. You should understand, and anyone who's trying to go into healthcare business, that would be a much better answer rather than just to say like what we do, and how we're doing and why we're so cool. No, yeah. That's a different story. I will try to provide as much value as possible to people who want to go into the healthcare. So they should consider healthcare as a large enterprise. And when you go to any enterprise, like there's like hundreds of people working or thousands of people working, they have multiple different problems or jobs to be done, right? It could be either optimizing their workflow, or optimizing communication, or improving their sales, improving their marketing performance, or something else. So it's like a lot of problems that they have, and startups basically offer different solutions to that are solving one specific problem of the enterprise. So in healthcare, it's exactly the same thing. It could be improving, again, like of the workflow optimization, enhancing customer or patient experience, building AI that helps doctors to analyze X-ray images and offer possible solutions, or detect early signs of cancer or something like that. Like there's like a lot of problems that the whole healthcare has. And the goal here for you, for the founder who is trying to go there, is to choose one problem and provide the solution, exactly the same way as you're really focusing on the enterprise clients. So in our case, of course, then now I can explain what we're doing. We're solving, again, only one problem right now, but definitely we'll be expanding further. We're solving the optimization of the workflow in an absolutely new way that allows them to take more patients and generate more revenue. So this is what we're focusing. That's the problem that we're solving. We're not solving the problem of stockpiling, like of medicine in their facility. No, that's a different startup that is doing those things. We're focusing on only one specific problem, which is a 2 billion problem. It's much bigger, sorry. It's a 14 billion problem. But in Europe alone, about 2 billion euros annually is being wasted because of this problem. So can you imagine, like, if we will be able to help clinicians in Europe, we will save them 2 billion euros annually.
So do you only serve for European markets right now, or I'm pretty sure it's worldwide?
Well, technically everyone can use Gigimot right now. Well, with some limitations, of course. But we will be focusing on Europe, partly European market, South America, and 2 more markets as well, 2 regions. Of course, like every startup founder wants to, like deploy globally from day one, which is impossible unless you have unlimited access to capital. But in our case, like in every case, in any case, in any case, a startup founder needs to have at least some plan or an idea where he wants to deploy, right? Some people go to US because this is really big market, it's very very rewarding market. Some people go to serve only the DACH region. DACH means Deutschland, Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Well, why these? Because Deutschland, Austria, and Schweiz, right? In Switzerland. So some people go to India, Pakistan, right? And they go to some people go to Saudi Arabia market. So it depends on the strategy of any startup founder, but definitely they need to have a plan.
Yeah, plan is very important. Do you work with like 5-year plans or anything like that, or how long are your plans?
Yeah, if anyone at an early stage will say, oh, we have a 5-year plan, no, this is a bullshit. Nobody is using that. I mean, like, nobody will believe that. What is much more convenient way is to have a maximum 3-year plan. Like, it's not even a plan, it's basically a product roadmap, which might help you just to see like what are you going to deploy next. But ideally you need to plan at early stage. I mean, like idea stage, I will start like that. If you're an idea stage, based on a quarterly, you need to plan into the future. Not even 6 months, not even 1 year, 3 months. This is what we do. I really like how we did it from the beginning. Before we had an idea, we plan on a quarterly basis. We had our business objectives, what we wanted to achieve, what would be the result, and then we plan for the next quarter. And I came to a conclusion that this is the most efficient way. Yes, of course, I have a roadmap for 3 months, for 3 years, what we want to achieve, but this is more like a fairy tale, like something that I really want to achieve, but there's no guarantee that we will achieve that because something might change, right? A new regulation could happen, a tsunami might occur, right? The Amazon might, like somehow shut down all their services. So something might happen, right? That we will just simply won't be able to control. And planning for a few months or for 3 years or 5 years or even 10 years, that's insane. Unless you are a big enterprise or you have at least reached Series A in funding and stage, that's a different story. This is where you need to have like really good plan, like especially financial plan to show to your investors, to investors who will be investing at Series B. They want to see like a really strategic plan for the next like 2, 3, 4 years. But at early stage, 3 months maximum. That's it. As in our case, right? We had like really good plan, like a 3 to 5 year plan. It was amazing stuff. We came up with a lot of network effects, how we can expand, how we can attract those. And then we just simply pivoted. In all our work, the energy that we wasted was completely gone. So it's not justified at early stage to plan so far ahead, because when you start talking to actual customers, right, people who will be start using your product, they will give you the feedback that you might not even thought you will receive that feedback. And based on that feedback, you might think, okay, so it's time to pivot because this will lead us to a dead end. So 3 months, again, I will pay 3 months maximum projection into the future. Next 3 months, next 3 months, next 3 months, and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah. So let's talk about you now. So like you mentioned in the start, you're a serial entrepreneur. So what all startups have you built in the past, and is this the first time you're entering healthcare, or you have fast experience?
Yeah. So I was building like about 10 years ago a earphone instant translator. It was before any wearable devices were even like a mainstream media. I was challenged a lot, like who would be wearing like, you know, like this headphone, you know, like when you have an iPhone, you know, like it doesn't make any sense. Yeah, right now a lot of people using like different wearable devices. So at that time we were solving the language barrier, because in Europe there's 20 plus countries, 20 plus different languages, and funny thing, not everyone speaks English. So you know, if you come from Estonia to Italy, chances that people will not speak English are really high. Same goes for Spain, for Portugal, for France. In Germany and Switzerland, that's a different story, right? In Scandinavia, here it's a different story. But there is a problem, right? It's a challenge. So if I'm coming from Italy, I'm Italian, you know, like Lorenzo, for example, right? From Spain, yeah, from Italy, Lorenzo, Vincenzo Lorenzo, something like that, right? I'm coming to Estonia. I will have a lot of challenges of getting employed because I don't speak Estonian and I don't understand what's happening, you know, like everywhere. So for me, it's a challenge. Same goes for Leonardo, right? For Leonardo coming from Spain to work in France, the same problem. He doesn't speak. And we were trying to solve this language barrier problem. So we came up with this device, you know, that would allow people to communicate freely, you know, like in your language, and they receive the translation, live translation, immediate translation in their language. And at that time, there wasn't any cloud-based solution for that. Basically, at that time, there was no cloud at all. And we were envisioning that sometime in the future, maybe like in few years, something would happen, because, you know, like we see the kind of projection of innovation, of the curve and stages of innovation, and something should happen in the future that will build a system, same as it was with internet, now with cloud, and the next thing would be with AI and, you know, Meta and whatever else situations. So it was really cool. I was able to negotiate about like 3.5 million euros for my seed, for the seed round. The preparation work was 2 years, and at the end, the guy who I wanted to buy patents, because he had researched and developed this machine learning algorithm that was so advanced. It was so advanced that at that time Google was not even close to what he had done. And at the end, you know, like you can imagine, you know, I'm sitting, you know, like chatting, negotiating, and he's backing down. And I was like, no way, like, no way. Like 2 years of preparation, investors, you know, like, and he's saying, you know, I will not be selling you my work. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, and this was the first time I really went burnout, like completely burnout. I was like, I returned back home to Estonia, and I literally didn't know what to do next, because it was like really hard to swallow and to process. But the experience was amazing, like phenomenal.
So how did it go about after that? Like when the person backed down, what happened to the funding, and what did the investors say to
Right.
you?
So I didn't get any funding, of course. Actually, those VCs, they didn't respond me back, and frankly, they never responded me back like at all. I was pitching them relevantly recently, relevant like kind of basically a few months ago, and nobody responded me back. I mean, like I even sent them a follow-up, nobody responded back. Probably they were blacklisting me. But anyways, a funny thing is that I reach out to that person, and just wanted to know, how's he doing, how's his health, and so on. And he said like 10 plus years has passed, and he said that, I'm so sorry that, like I backed down on the deal last time. Like I'm feeling like that it was like it could have been like really good startup if you have built that. And he was offering me to buy his startup, his patents now for 1 million, because last time the deal was about 30 million. So 30 million versus 1 million. And I said to him, no, sorry, like I have to pass because your technology is way too outdated. He didn't sell it to me. I was about to make a payment of 10%, like a down payment, and then to buy out on the next rounds when I will be raising, and he would have basically got everything plus royalty plus some other stuff. So yeah, that was a story and experience I really value, because like not everyone goes through this, but it's really good and challenge that shows you, like if you're ready to kind of operate with these numbers, if you can actually handle that pressure and so on. So aside from that, couple of other startups, basically, it was a e-commerce store. I launched the first in Estonia online vegan shop for vegans serving the whole country. Compared to let's say India, right? We don't have that much people, plant-based. The whole market in Estonia consists of, at that time, consisted of 25,000 people. So it's a very, very niche, given that the whole country is 1.3 million people, and 25,000 were my target audience. It was an amazing experience. I built up the whole shop from the ground up. I established the logistics from Tallinn, well, basically from the capital to other cities in my countries. Sometimes I even drew myself, because there wasn't any logistics available, and that was really cool experience as well. I also started to expand to B2B, because I was serving B2C. My business model was B2C and then B2B, well, basically B2B to C. Then slowly started expanding to Latvia, supplying Latvian cafes, individuals. And then, what happened? Then the local big shopping centers came in, took over my suppliers, got exclusives, and basically they reduced the prices, and I wasn't able to compete with them. So of course I had to shut down the business, and but that was like really amazing experience. Now I know how to build a e-commerce store from the ground up. And regarding the e-commerce, regarding the healthcare, this is the first time I'm entering this market. It's very interesting. You learn a lot, as basically with every other industry where you want to go. And I see a lot of opportunities here. Like the healthcare industry is like education. It's the least developed industry. And that's sad, of course, because the education system is so big, but it's not, it hasn't been disrupted for many years. I mean, like right now, what's happening, like, okay, online education, online platforms, online market, that's not a actual disruption. That's just a small optimization for people who want to study remotely. But if we're talking about like different like things, like a complete innovation and complete disruption, then you need to go slightly different path. You need to go slightly beyond of just having a kind of video and that's it. Because again, one of my startups was also a magazine for students, and we were envisioning like a really big, we had really big vision for that magazine. I won't be going to details, but the inspiration was coming from the Swiss students portal. It's students.ch. If it's still existing, you can basically then check it out and see the idea. But of course, I took it and modified based on my vision, and it was like really cool, like super cool. In terms of, again, education, if people want to go there, it's a massive market. But if you'll be offering a just another video option tool for classes, that's chances that you will raise capital for this are not that big. You need to think smart. You need to go beyond that, much beyond that. So, well, with software, it's very simple. I mean, like, you just write a code and that's it. Like, you can literally go to Bali, right? Or go to Indonesia, other places of Indonesia, or go to South America, or basically fly to the moon, whatever. Like, you just need your laptop, and that's it. So that's the easiest part, right? You just simply then make some customer interviews, right? Like a bunch of them. You can go to the streets and say, you know, hey, I'm building this amazing stuff that will save you time, right? Will you be using this? You can show mock-ups. You know, you don't even need to build that. You just show mock-up design, and that's it. If they say yes, you basically launch. You collect the feedback. You launch a simple landing page. You run a ad, and you will see if people will be actually signing up. And of course, if you need to also add a price tag, because that's the ultimate validation signature. If they're willing to pay immediately, if you don't even have the product, boom, that's it. You have a business. You can build around that customer and that niche and that problem. That's it. Like, very simple. With e-commerce, that's a different story. First of all, you need to understand who is your target audience, who will you be serving, right? In my case, in the e-commerce, it was vegan, so it's pretty straightforward. I mean, like, every product that is a plant-based, this is basically a potential product for my audience. But of course, there were also ups and downs. For example, like chocolate bars, yeah, kind of good, but not so good. Some other products, like also jackfruit, also worked okay, but they had a lifetime value, not the shelf value, but the lifetime value of that product. Because, you know, when it's something new, people try, make a couple of purchases, and then basically they start, the curve goes like this, and they don't purchase because they kind of got used to it. It's not so cool anymore. So you also need to think through and plan, because unlike of software business, the product business, in terms of goods, right, the consumer goods, fast moving consumer goods to be specific, they have a shelf life. So you just simply cannot, you know, like, purchase thousands of units and that's it, you know, like, because people don't buy that often, or they will buy like super fast. You need to think through, you need to plan, you need to kind of negotiate with suppliers. Like, it's a different story. And of course, you need to do a lot of marketing, like a lot of marketing, to grab attention all the time. Customer acquisition cost, because, you know, there's a lot of products competing in the fast moving consumer goods. There's like literally a ton of products. So that's a different story. If you're talking about the hardware business, there is also a completely different story. First of all, and probably the most hardest part, is to find a manufacturer who will manufacture the product that you want to produce. And also, you need to have a strong team, find the talents who will be able to either build the product, same as with, you know, like engineers, software engineers, but now you need to build the actual product. Then you also need to figure out about the cost structure of buying the raw materials, you know, like the motherboards, you know, some wires, you know, like chips, you know, like diodes, and so on and so on and so on. Basically, this is also something that you need to think through. But if you will look at the comparison, you can't compare those three industries, because they're completely different. But there's only one thing that unites everything. You need to basically do everywhere, no matter what industry you're going through, like it's a hardware, if it's a consumer goods, if it's a software, you always need to follow the same playbook. Analyze who your product is, figure out your cost structure, prepare a value proposition, evaluate that value proposition, and ship the product, because that's the ultimate indicator whether you will succeed or not. And by succeed, I mean if the people will be using or buying your product. So in our case, when we were building the hardware, it was super hard to find really good people who will be able to build this stuff, but I was lucky enough to attract an engineer from NASA, and that was really cool. That was the highest achievement. And the second probably highest achievement was that I was able to negotiate. I didn't went into manufacturing process, but I was able to start negotiation with a manufacturing company, which everyone knows. It's called Logitech. And we wanted to have, because they were located in Switzerland, and we were launching in Switzerland at that time. So we were negotiating a possibility to use their production lines to build our prototypes, because we needed to have embedded Bluetooth, motherboards, of course, the plastic and stuff like that. So we also need to negotiate with suppliers, the same as in the e-commerce business, you need to negotiate with suppliers. So basically the same playbook, but slightly adjusted for every industry. So again, the goal here is to, the main point here is to not be afraid of entering any industry if you're unprepared. You only need to follow along. You only need to follow the specific playbook. I'm not saying that this will guarantee immediate success. No, it's just kind of, there are a lot of nuances, of course, but the most important things are, you need to first of all understand who is your target customer, right? Like what problem you're solving for them. Like validate the idea. Like build a prototype, run some ads, and ship, because this is the ultimate goal. The last one, you ship the product, whether like chocolate bars, if it's a piece of code, or it's a small gadget, that you will give to people who will be wearing or attaching or putting into like backpack or whatever they will be using, or putting into the soil, right? And it will generate solar energy. So it doesn't really matter. Basically, the ultimate validation comes from the people who will be using that. I hope this answer answers your question. I know it's probably not what you were expecting, but I wanted to touch point the most important thing. Like, it doesn't really matter whether just to stop what you're launching, software, fast consumer goods, or hardware. There is a specific things that you need to, that are alike in every industry. The customer, right? The validation, the problem, of course, the MVP, and the ultimate validation by the consumers or the customers who will be using your product.
Yeah, it was a perfect answer. So how did you, or how did media coverage, because you have got considerably a large amount of media coverage from what I saw on your website. How did that help in the growth of your startup? And apart from like the marketing thing, how did it really help at the core?
Well, it depends. So with the awards, with the global health and pharma, that's a different story, because this is definitely something that health-related organizations look at. But with the media, this is more for the SEO and for the investors to show. Basically, like, if people talking about you, if media is writing about you, there's something like happening, something interesting. We can dig into that. But on the customer, or basically or on the customer perspective, it didn't affect at all. So it's a just part. Every startup founder needs to understand this, that media, if you think that you will launch an article, if someone will publish an article about you in some kind of media, and you will get immediately like thousands of customers, no, that doesn't work. The PR is only part of your marketing and sales strategy. So you do some posting on Facebook or like on social media. The news are writing articles about that. You go to podcasts, like people are listening to you. They listen what you're saying. How do you say, and what do you say? And they start thinking about you as a expert in your area, in your industry. Then you participate in some kind of business forums or industry related forums. You're a speaker, right? You write a guest blogs in some locations. You do something else. So in combination, this is the marketing that when the person, because the consumer, basically your customer now, is very picky. He analyzes a lot of companies in your industry, And basically based on the results that he will find about your company, you personally, you know, like your value proposition, testimonials, and so on and so on, then he will make the ultimate decision. And this is where the sales department comes in, right? They step in and basically they start working with the people who already analyzed and came to a conclusion whether they want to use your product or service or not. And the media, as again, is the part of the whole, like a chain of your activities. Like small activities bring you results from your marketing overall activity, and that's, in this case, yes, it's very helpful. But as a standalone, no, it doesn't help.
So how did like, very practical question, nothing too philosophical about it, but how did you guys really get media coverage? Was it natural, or did you actually reach out to different articles?
Yeah, it was like a direct reach. You start building relationship with the journalist. Um, like the wrong strategy is to send a journalist who you don't know, like press release, and expect him to publish it immediately. That's the wrong strategy. The better strategy is to reach out to him, start building your relationship, asking kind of a couple of questions, follow them on Twitter, for example, you know, like engage with what they're writing, right? Share some kind of tips in the comments, you know, like how you see the problem, or, you know, like thank them for this article, right? You make a repost. So that's how you build relationship. That's how they recognize you. And then when you will be ready to have a dialogue with them about something, then they will already know, oh yeah, I know Advik, he kind of, you know, he's engaging with my Twitter, right? He's commenting me all the time. Yeah, I remember his name. That's interesting. Let's see what he has in mind. So that's how it works. It's a long-term strategy. And this is something that startup founders not do properly often.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people rely on virality,
Yeah,
which is not in a person's control, actually.
yeah.
Way
Yeah.
outside of it. So how did you guys get Joseph Grant on board?
Oh, this is a
That was
really
an
good one.
interesting thing.
It was a story when
And
the club.
I'm sorry for interrupting, but just a little background about Joseph Grant, so that some people who might
Sure.
not know him.
Okay. So Henry is really cool guy. He is a mastodon in sales, and he's very known in Northern Ireland. And he was the first employee of Just Eat. Just Eat is a unicorn startup, the food delivery guys. They have this orange form,
Yeah.
if you don't know. So basically, he was the first employee. He was responsible for the whole UK region, and he helped the guys. The original company comes from Denmark, so he helped the guys build the startup from ground up to basically IPO. And he was also one of the executives at other companies, like very known. You basically can Google Henry Joseph Grant, and you will see the information. So how did we met? It was a very accidental situation. When Clubhouse was famous, well, not famous, but basically when it had its own momentum, there was, I don't remember the room exactly, but something like about business venture startups, something like that. There were a lot of rooms like that, and Henry was also one of the people in that group. So the good strategy at that time was, if people is still using Clubhouse, I don't know if it's still existing, you can use the same strategy. So basically, go to the meeting room and start looking about the people who are not speakers but attending those rooms. So there's a lot of information, good information that you can use. Like, you know, like some people say, like I'm a social media manager, you know, working for Google, you know, and stuff like that. So you can reach out to that person on Instagram or LinkedIn, you know, like you can have a conversation with them, just kind of start building a relationship. That's a really good strategy. So I use the same approach when I reach out to Henry. So I saw his basically profile, and like I saw like a lot of cool information, and I was like, and I say like, oh my gosh, like this is guy I want to really see as one of our advisors. And basically that room ended, and I was like, oh my gosh, like what, like I don't have a connection with him. So I reach out to him. If I'm not mistaken, it was LinkedIn. I reach out to him. We had a couple of exchanges, questions, back and forth. Then we had a meeting, and at the end of the meeting, he enjoyed the conversation, and he said that he is willing to become one of our advisors as well. And that was like super cool. I was feeling so happy because having Henry as an advisor was amazing. He is the coach that uh, that every startup founder should have, but not everyone has the opportunity to have such kind of coach. It's like very, it's a different level. I mean, like in terms of association, like you're a superhero rookie, right? You just kind of uncovered your first level like achievement, and all of a sudden you have a Superman 99 level superhero who is backing you up, like behind of your, standing behind of you, like, and telling you like, okay, go this direction now, use like X-ray vision, now fly here, now like use the ice breath, like, and you're feeling that you're going from one level to like level number 2, level number 5 with him, supporting you and showing you where not to kind of fly, because there is kryptonite, there is something else, like, and like it's really cool. It's really cool. So the lesson here, guys, everyone who's listening or watching this, find a mentor, like find people who have been there where you want to be, or or mentors who have skills that you do not possess, who are much more experienced than you are. Reach out to them on LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, engage with the conversation, and ask them to become your mentor. Not becoming an advisor in your company, but first becoming your mentor, and then offer them a opportunity to become also an advisor in your startup.
Yeah. So when you initially reached out to Henry, how did you structure the message? Because what I have noticed personally also, that not a lot of people respond. Like when they get at that level, I mean, con- by the societal standards, uh,
Mhm.
kind of become successful.
Mhm.
Uh, they don't respond. Now I don't know what the reasons for that are personally, but how did you get a response from him? That's something I'm personally very interested.
Right. So there are two answers to this question. The first one is, um, it's a myth that successful people don't want to mentor other startups, because it's a natural thing for people to pass knowledge to someone else. Yes, of course, there are people who don't care about this. Yes, of course. But on the majority level and scale, there are people willing to pass the knowledge, but they are very picky to whom they will be passing this knowledge to. Because the worst thing a great mentor can do is to invest his time and energy in someone who doesn't even value or cherish the knowledge and wisdom that the mentor is passing to the mentee. So now answering the second question, probably not everyone is getting responses back because the mentor or this high level person doesn't see you as a person who he or she is willing to invest his time into coaching you. So in order to reduce the probability or increase the probability of you to actually getting a yes from that person, is to first of all to I know it sounds really bad, but to have a proper profile on LinkedIn, like to have your wall either on LinkedIn or on Twitter, to have a really good content and relevant content, you know, like you have a lot of followers. Well, you don't need to have actually a lot of followers, but basically it's interesting to read you, and that you show that you are actually willing to learn and stuff like that. And the last thing, of course, is to have some touch point with that person. With Henry, the touch point was TransferWise, because TransferWise was Estonian and is Estonian startup unicorn. Now it's called Wise. They launched in London Stock Exchange, now worth billions of euros. So he knows founders of startup of TransferWise. So he was also a guest mentor at their annual TransferWise Day. So basically, they have a connection. And at that time, when I reached out to Henry, I said that one of my co-founders is actually from TransferWise. He's a product analyst guy. And that basically was the trigger for Henry that this team is kind of qualified. I wouldn't say like he's qualified, but this team is worth my attention, and I can look deeper into that. So that's why he agreed on a call. And during the call, he basically came to a conclusion that yes, it would be a good investment of his time and energy into our team.
Yeah, that's like considering, but it's also based upon the, like, for example, if you take you have built several big companies, or not big companies, but rather companies which have done something good and created some impact. So you might have seen that too in the past. So I think that has added to the chances of you getting him on the advisory.
That might be the case, but that's not always a true situation, because in the beginning, when I didn't have any experience, any background. I just dropped out from university because I realized that I don't want to waste my time on studying entrepreneurship from the people who never launched a business. Yeah. So I quit, and I started to I transformed from becoming a academic to a street smart, from basically going from book smart to street smart. And I started reaching out to other entrepreneurs, top managers, you know, like investors, and asking them to become my mentor, like literally pitching them. And one mentor, actually, one person responded me back and agreed to become my mentor without me having any proof of, you know, like I am able to deliver something. No, I was kind of completely blank, but that person was very she saw something in me, and she believed it in me, and she became my mentor, and we're still good friends, and she's actually one of our investors now in this startup. Yeah,
it's crazy how things like progress. Incredible.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on fundraising in the current situation? Because investing is heavily glorified right now, and it's like, considering the current situation, it's pretty hard to. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are next. I will tell my personal experience, which is completely different from whatever other guys are seeing, but VCs, honestly, they will invest in whatever startup there is that is generating revenue. So if you are able to show at the early days that you are growing like 15% or 20% month over month, they will write a check. Like, well, of course, depending on the niche, on the industry, and some other interesting points that they have, and the theses. But in overall, no matter like what they're like saying on Twitter, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know, like the industry is crashing, you know, like people don't invest. I'm seeing investors, you know, actually writing checks, a lot of checks. A buddy of mine from Finland, they have an AI basically tool that before the ChatGPT, it summarizes the whole context into a few bullet points and gives you, you know, like the whatever you basically have. So right now, I actually don't know how they will be competing with ChatGPT and this functionality and the recent plugin introduction feature. So it's going to be interesting. I'll actually reach out and ask. But they were able to raise capital like that, like, well, not maybe like that, of course, but they were able to raise capital in these times, and the number is like really big. I mean, like really big number. In my case, it was a completely different story. I reached out personally to more than 200 VCs for the past year, and I didn't get any check. Yeah, so like it's not even a numbers games. There might be like a different case, you know, like maybe they didn't like me like as a person, right? Maybe they didn't believe in the team that we had. Maybe they didn't like that we pivoted so much. Maybe they thought that their industry is like so crowded that we just basically will not be able to do those things. Or maybe they saw that we basically haven't been launching for a long time, and that's something that indicates a red flag for them. I don't know, like many reasons. So instead, we started to bootstrap. I raised capital from angels instead of VCs, and now we're getting like a lot of traction. And now I will be, you know, when I will be reaching out to those investors, now I'll be having a different conversation. Now the rules will be on my basically side, right? The ball is on my side because we have the traction now. You know, they passed on us. Now we have the traction. If they want to invest, the rules are basically this now.
Yeah.
So the lesson here is basically, if you get a no from an investor, it doesn't mean that you suck or your startup suck. No, it could be like many different industries, many other topics or reasons. So maybe, you know, like you just reach out to a investor or venture firm that is not investing in your industry or not investing in your geography, or the thesis is completely different, or your stage is different. So before basically reaching out to any VC, you need to make a proper homework, right? The worst thing what you can do is just simply have a list of emails and send them the same thing. No, that's the worst thing. You need to go, like, you open let's say you go to axel.com, right? Or earlybird.com or speedinvest.com. Doesn't really matter like which venture fund is. You go to the portfolio, analyze their portfolio, right? Like you go then and see what's the team is behind that portfolio. You reach out to that person and say, hey, you know what? For example, hey, Advik, I saw your recent post on Twitter about portfolio company XYZ. That was amazing. I know the guys, you know, like they were building this really cool stuff. And, you know, like we're doing a complementary software that is adding value together with that startup. We're growing like 15% on a monthly basis, and we have 7,000 MRR. Would you like to have a conversation with us? And not even like, would you like to have? We would like to have we're raising capital right now, and we're looking for investors to jump in. Please let me know if you would like to schedule a call with me, right? Or if you would like to jump in early. Something like that, right? So you find a touch point, you know, like something where you can find a connection, and you basically reach out to those investors, and you increase the chances of your fundraising. But right now, honestly, most of VCs in Europe, at least, they have like Typeform or Airtable type of form that you basically write the general information, and then someone from the team, usually it's analysis, reach out to you and has an initial conversation. So that's basically how they work right now.
Yeah. Awesome. That your answers are like to the point. Very good. That the answer pretty because I am asking questions which I did not send you, because not because I did not want to send you, but they just came up in the conversation. So how do you structure it in your mind? Because when I speak, new thoughts keep like they keep pouring into my mind. It gets muffled up while going out. So that's just a personal question.
It comes from experience, right? If you're a startup founder, right? If you're a CEO, so by default, your mind needs to work constantly, every time. You need to produce at least 1 terabyte of pure energy every millisecond, like not even 1 hour, like every millisecond. Your mind should be working like it all the time, like when somebody asks a question, you immediately see the whole puzzle, like 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 millions, billions of possible scenarios, and you just basically already know the structure, how you will operate in the scenario A, scenario B, scenario Z, and so on and so on and so on. So I think that comes from again experience. When you do a lot of stuff, you basically train your mind. It's exactly as a muscle, right? If you don't do mind push-ups, right, push-ups for the mind, then your mind becomes weak. But if you're constantly challenging it, you're solving really challenging questions, going through a lot of problems, and you're solving those problems, then your mind just basically works on a different frequency, and it produces results all the time.
Yeah. So I guess like I'll just last question. This has been a pretty long conversation, but what advice would you like to give to young like startup founders or people who are just starting out on the journey from your experience? What would you like to
There's a lot of things that actually
just one?
pops into my mind.
Yeah.
Be prepared to walk the path alone, because nobody will care as much as you do about your startup. No one will be putting 100% effort as you are doing. Nobody will actually care about your startup, nor you. So you need to prepare and take it easy, like for the feedback. Like if you will do something and people won't like it, don't take it personal, right? You will learn from your mistakes. You will just keep going forward. You will go further and further. But keep in mind that entrepreneurship and launching a business, a startup, especially if you're first-time founder, it is a very, very lonely road. No one will be cheering. I mean, like, you have friends, right? But they will not be supporting you as you would wish. They will not be giving you money, right? They will not be becoming your customers. So be sure that you will be mentally prepared to walk the path alone, because if you will be prepared, then other challenges will be irrelevant. That's probably the main advice that I will be giving to you. It will be much easier for you to face those challenges when you will be mentally prepared. So again, be prepared to walk alone. Not hiring everyone, not to building a team. No.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the different thing. I'm talking about that in the end, nobody will care as much about your startup as you do.
Yeah. That was pretty different, but pretty. Now that I hear it, it's pretty practical actually. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like, I could have said
Yeah, go
that,
ahead.
oh, okay, so the best advice that I will tell you is to launch fast, like ship fast, or the other one is like, keep moving forward, I guess you will do it, you will crush it. Like this is something for, like Tony Robbins style, like stand up, everyone, hang, give a hug to each other. Yes, you can do it. This is like a bullshit for people who like want to get inspiration. The practical advice is that when you launch, nobody will care about your startup, no matter how bad you think, like no matter how good you think your product or solution is, like no matter how many hours or years you have invested, no one cares. Like absolutely no one cares. And most of the time, people will even hate your product, because it will even it will not, the first version, it will it will not work properly. It will make them feel angry, and they will uh, flush a ton of negative feedback on you, and you will feel horrible afterwards, and you will try to like uh, switch off your phone, like delete your email account. You will not want to respond them back, especially if they have paid and your product doesn't deliver the results that you promised. So be mentally prepared for all of this. Be sure that you will be able to withstand the challenges through when you will be walking this path.
Yeah, that was incredible advice, actually. So I guess that is from my side. Anything you'd like to add as we conclude?
No, I would only add just to the listeners that follow Advik, like there would be definitely a lot of really fresh content, and who knows, maybe in some time we will have another podcast.